Welcome to Indoor Hydroponics. I'm John, your indoor hydroponic test dummy with an outside update. That's right, guys. YouTube viewership is down because we have reached peak summer growing season, which means we're about halfway through the summer growing season. So to those that this video finds, I bid you success in the garden. For all the others, well, you'll probably be watching it in the winter. Regardless, what I have over my shoulder here is a tripod of 3 Burpee Super Steak tomatoes growing up single stem. However, I have let some suckers grow out. See, I don't like taking suckers for transplant at the young stage. I like taking them at the older stages because I think the percentage of success greatly increases if we wait just a little bit longer. So today, instead of doing the atypical garden tour, I thought we would try to learn something and take suckers and make second generation tomato plants, because now is the perfect time. Mid-season, we still have plenty of growing season left, and if you need some extra tomato plants, this is prime time to sucker and transplant and create new cloned tomato plants. But we need some stuff. You don't need all the stuff I'm going to use, but all the stuff that I'm going to use will greatly increase the success percentage of transplantation. Let's take a look. First, why sucker? Well, suckering is actually a really cool and fun idea, particularly with tomato plants, because tomato plants transplant very easily, okay? And we'll describe what a sucker is in very quick and short detail. And we'll also explain the process of transplanting it. But I like to sucker because they'll self-root into a pot and they're already at the genetic stage of flowering. Why is that important? Because I don't have to wait the time it would take from seed to generate fruit from suckering, because these things are already in production mode, which means if the transplant takes place, your production for fruit will be much greater by taking a sucker than starting from seed. And by the way, you don't want to start from seed midsummer. You don't got enough time unless you live in the deep south. And no one likes the deep south. Just kidding. Alright guys, I got some gadgets and gazmos and but most importantly, I'm going to transplant 5-gallon pots. So I'm going to do 3 of them. We're going to need kind of a high quality potting mix. We're also going to need some compost. We're going to mix them up real good. We're going to add some amendments to it, organic amendments, to help boost the success of this and also feed the plant as it's getting ready to root in. Let's get started. Let's start off with some potting soil, which usually typically is vermiculite, perlite, and a lot of peat moss or cocoa coir, depending on what brand you buy. And let's fill these up about 3/4 of the way. And then let's kick into a very high quality composted manure and humus, okay? Something of the nature of black gold. But don't fill it all the way. Now would be an appropriate time to add the amendments before we mix. What we have in this cup here of, I don't know what measure it is, probably 8-ounce or 12-ounce cup, is azomite, okay, in granulated format. They sell it in granules, okay, and I like to put the granules, if I'm to use this stuff, in pots because it breaks down a little bit more slowly and feeds the plant with nutrients and minerals, basically minerals. This is just rock dust, guys, and this has your 90 trace elements that all the organic people like to talk about, okay? So I'm going to put about 1/3 of a glass in here. You really can't overdo this stuff, and it's critical that we add plenty of nutrition and amendments into potted plants, because potted plants become nutrient deficient very quickly, okay? So if we start good up front and do a maintenance during the mid part of the grow, we should be just very successful. That looks like a lot, but remember, we're not adding chemical salt fertilizer, so really we're not. This is just minerals. Next up, we're going to use this organic amendment, and it's called Roots Organic Uprising. Lots of different types of organic material in here in the form of bat guano, worm castings, fish meal, kelp meal, green sand, more minerals, glacial rock dust. So it's got a lot of good stuff in it. Got it as a free sample, so let's add a little bit of that in here. Not too much. And then lastly, we're going to add a little bit of mycorrhiza. What does mycorrhiza do? Well, it bonds to the roots of plants and helps take up better nutrient uptake, okay? So it helps the plant feed more, which generates good root growth, good fruit production, good plant production. This is a fungus, okay? And it is an inoculant, and it works well. It's cheap, and you can get it at a hydroponics store. It's good to mix this in pre-planting. Now the last two things we add during the transplant and in liquid form. Alright, it's been mixed up, and before we move any further, I think it should be noted that there is plenty, and I mean plenty, of nutrition within these buckets right now to sustain a natural plant growth throughout a growing season. Really, at this point, all we need is some good water, but we will probably beef this up with some compost tea at some point. Nonetheless, those are well prepared pots for some vegetable tomato type growing, okay? And that's the key to good gardening, is your soil. If you don't have good soil, you will be completely and utterly lost when it comes to gardening. Alright, we pre-moistened, which means we watered, and we watered with with the dog's pool water, okay, dechlorinated and all that. Maybe he even peed in it, who knows? But no chlorination going on in there. Is that important? I don't know, probably not, but nonetheless, that's where we are. Now we got to get to the most important piece of the pie, which is suckering these plants and not getting tobacco mosaic virus on them from this awesome $1 cigar. Okay, unsure if you can see this or not. I'm trying to get a close-up on it, but I let a couple of the suckers grown out, as I indicated before. Got a lot of nice flowering coming on, got a good bunch of clusters of tomatoes starting down below here. But you know what? This is the sucker, okay? So this is the main stem. This is the leaf that's coming off. And obviously what grows out of the armpit is a sucker, alright? And so, let's snip that baby. And what we have here is a long sucker. Now we're going to prune some leaves off and whatnot. So let me get about 3 of these. And let's get to transplanting. Now the key is the pruning of the sucker, okay? So we've got a big branch off of here, and you'll even notice that this one has some flower action going. And as much as it kills me to trim those off, we want to trim those off, because what we want to do is put all the energy of this plant into rooting in properly, okay? And so I'm going to cut on a diagonal just above one of the leaf nodes, alright? And so this right here is a properly pruned and prepared sucker to go into here. Now, could I just put it in here? Well, of course I could, but why not take technology to the next level? And that's where we introduce the rooting hormone, okay? And all this is extract from the willow tree, because willow trees can drop branches onto the ground and self-root. So they do something with the willow tree extract, and they bottle this stuff up, and it really helps other plants root in. I don't know what the exact success factor on that is, but nonetheless, let's take advantage of it, okay? And let's put some of it around the base like that. Alright? And why did we pre-moisten the soil? So that we can just jam this thing in, okay? We are going to do a slight watering, but we don't want to wash all of this good rooting hormone off of what's going on in here. So now we want to plant this thing. As deep as we can without breaking it. We got us a properly planted sucker right here, man. And all we want to do at this point is let this baby root in. And how are we going to do that? Maintain adequate moisture. And there's another tip coming up on how to do that. Alright. 3 suckered, pruned, and root hormoned transplants going into action here, okay? There's one more thing I want to do real quick. Let me show you. This is a free sample I got from the hydroponic store, and yes, it is organic. And what it is it's called Rapid Start Rooting Stem Enhancer, okay? So in addition to the rooting hormone that we put on the base of the stem, we are going to mix a little bit of this liquid in here, and what that obviously does is that will increase our chances of a successful rooting into these pots, alright? And all we need is about 5 drops of this per gallon of water. I'm going to do that, mix it up, and then I'm going to add it to these pots around the base, okay? Just very lightly, not very much, maybe a couple of cups a piece, and that's it, okay? So let me get that going. Alright guys, the last thing we're going to do, and this is crucial, is we're going to mulch the top here, and that's going to keep the moisture in. If at any point during this transplant process these pots dry out, we are dead. Remember, these have not generated roots yet, so they are going to be feeding off of those fine little bristles coming off the side of the stems. This needs to be maintained at adequate moisture. And because we are in the hot growing season, we are going to want to add wood chips in here, and that's going to keep that moisture in, and it's going to keep it consistent, and it's going to increase our odds to get proper rootage. So you might be asking yourself, what do I do at this point? Well, that's an easy question. What we want to do is keep these in some natural sunlight, but not in direct sun for the next 7 days or so. So I'm going to put them in a spot that gets a little bit of sun in the morning, and then just glancing, kind of not direct sunlight during the afternoon and into the evening, okay? We don't want to dry these babies out. There is going to be some transplant shock going on. You're going to see some funky things happening, but give it time and they will take root. Okay, so let me put these in a spot, and let me show you one more thing. And here's where their final destination is going to be for at least the next 7 days, or until I start to notice some significant top growth, which is going to be on a step on my deck. Again, just morning sun, indirect sunlight throughout the remainder of the day. Should be a pretty good location to extend the growing season, start some new plants, and have a late harvest of hopefully gigantic tomatoes. So come back and let's check out the progress on these. I'll come back in about a month or so, check the success rate, see if they all made it, one made it, two made it, and also if we have some tomatoes coming on in less than a month. So that would be pretty cool. So if you guys want a quick garden tour, now's your time to end the video. Thanks for watching, and please come back, like, subscribe, and comment when you can. For the remainder of the folks that do enjoy garden tours, and I'll be brief, come on along. I'll be behind the camera. What we have in garden bed 1 here is some tomato cages, 56-inch cages, and some yellow beans growing up from the middle and climbing up the base. Okay, so we're about a month and a half into that, just starting to get some flowers. But I also want to show you something kind of neat here. Do you have to do all of those things that I said you had to do to transplant a sucker? No. This is a sucker that I took off one of my super sauce tomatoes about a week and a half ago. Literally cut it and just transplanted it into garden soil. This plant is going to make it. Now I'm probably going to have to dig it out and put it in a spot where it gets full sun, but you notice that this got shaded out quite a bit, so it had a chance to root in and maintain moisture. This plant is going to make it. So if at the bare minimum you just want to sucker and start some plants mid-season, put them in some good garden soil. They will make it, but your chances are about 50-50, honestly. I think, in fact, I have another one going on right here, and that one's about a week and a half old but not dead. And I also have one coming on this side, and this one looks pretty good too. See that? So I think I did about 6 or 7 of them, and like I said, about 50-50 success rate. Now, yellow pole beans. What I have going on here are some Boston cucumber picklers. Okay, so I've got 2 56-inch cages with some picklers growing up them. Thought this would be good for a few jars of pickles. My daughter forced me into buying a grape plant last fall, and I really didn't want to plant a grape plant, but I bought it for like $1, and it was a stick, and I put it in the ground late fall, and there we go, man. And I don't know if you're supposed to get grapes first season or not, but here's grapes coming on. It's a seedless Concord, I guess purple or red grape or something like that. My daughter bought me one of them $1 box things of wildflowers. Hey, those work. Look. We've got some garlic starting to die off. We've got a perennial plant here, but the garlic, this was grocery store garlic that's going to be featured in another video, okay? And I guess I should be doing some weeding on this, but I've been lazy. Tomato, 8 single stakes. This is where I started that toad garden, okay? And by the way, Mr. Toad's been hopping in and out of his houses all summer long. He's not there now, but as you can see, there's plenty of cover and shade, just like anticipated, okay? And believe me, every other day or so, he's in there hanging out. Right now, he might be hopping around the yard eating some insects. Nonetheless, Cherokee Purple, single stake, growing up, kids pool in the backyard. What do we got here? Got some great big tomatoes starting to come on. We've got some good clusters going, coming on up top. Got some more on this one. Cherokee Purple, my favorite organic tomato. Heirloom, I meant to say, heirloom tomato, but that one's going to be a big one. That one's going to be over £1 when it's done. This one's over £1 right now. Big, ugly looking sucker right there. Look at the bottom of that. That's pretty characteristic of a Cherokee Purple. They get kind of ugly from time to time. Nonetheless, below it, side of it, above it, more coming on. More flowers up there. Doing really good. Now, back here are those Burpee Super Sauce tomatoes. These things get gigantic, over a pound a piece, so it's very easy to get a lot of production for canning purposes, okay? But kind of a weird plant. Grows really compact, it's indeterminate, and it's hard to figure out where the main stem is from time to time. Nonetheless, we've got lots of nice tomatoes coming on, and just an absolute ton of flowers coming on. I mean, cluster after cluster after cluster after cluster of tomatoes are going to come on here, and I'm hoping to get just a absolute, look at that, look at that. That's a saucing paste tomato. I dare anyone to grow a Roma that big, because you won't. Nonetheless, these taste good. Grew them in pots last year and they're absolutely fantastic, so I wanted to try them in ground and I'm very happy with them. If you like a short, bushy, paste type tomato, sauce type tomato, give those a shot. Let's come over here real quick. These are where we took our suckers, and these are your Burpee Steakhouse tomatoes. They grow between 1 and 3 pounds, shooting for a 2-pounder this year. Just starting to get the tomatoes kicking on right there. Okay, got lots of different clusters kicking on in there. Growing up a tripod, all right. This is going to be a nice big cluster.